Citrus County Planning and Development Commission public hearing for October 7th, 2021. If you would like to join us at this time, I invite you to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, please give us the grace to be understanding, patient, and tolerant. With these attributes, we can conduct our work in a manner which will be pleasing to Thee, our county, and its residents. In the Lord's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Have the following Planning and Development Commission members present this morning: Michael Facemeyer, Chair; David Bramblett, First Vice Chair; Richard Barnes; James Royce; Kurt Stone; Stacy Worthington; William Berta; and School Board Representative Chuck Dixon.
Thank you. If any person decides to appeal any decision made by the Commission with respect to any matter considered at this hearing, he or she will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose, he or she may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record would include testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. During public input portions of this meeting, individuals will be given 3 minutes. Representatives of an organization will be given 5 minutes. When anyone wishing to speak comes to the podium, please complete a yellow form and hand it to the recording secretary. Please print your name, address, and the number of the application for which you are speaking on that form. The yellow forms can be found at the podium by the door. If representing an organization, a letter of authorization must accompany the speaker. Comments will be limited to the topics being heard. Please state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the tape record. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Commission on any matter that they choose. This is the open portion of the meeting. Seeing none, no one, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. We do not have any minutes to approve, and we'll move on to staff announcements.
Really don't have too much except that we do have a new planner. Ms. Perkins, raise your hand. This is Jennifer Perkins. She joins us. Amy Bidwell has gone to the school system, so she is taking over, and we're looking forward. I will work on I have everybody's education background and stuff. I prepared it a long time ago. I'll work on an update for you, hopefully for next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, do you have anything?
The only comment is it looks like we'll be talking about waterfront setbacks here in the next couple months, so be prepared.
Thank you. Ex parte communications.
Good morning.
Good morning.
With regard to CPA AA PUD 21-12, PV-21-05, V-21-14, and V-21-16, have you had any ex parte communications you need to disclose? And we'll start with Mr. Dixon.
No, ma'am.
Site visit on all?
None.
Site visit on all?
None. None.
None.
None. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, time has arrived for public hearing on CPA AA PUD 21-12.
Yes, good morning. This application proposes to expand and modify an existing planned unit development. The Crystal Glen subdivision lies on State Road 44 and West Homosassa Trail and has been partially developed. This is looking at the new area from Phase 2, which has been constructed. This is looking from the new area to some of the existing development. And the site plan is submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come forward?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I turned in my yellow sheet for the record. My name is Avis Marie Craig, planning consultant on behalf of Mr. Fisher. We were you were provided letters of authorization for myself, Mr. Stillwell, and Mr. Gibbs, who I know you know, all of those folks. So, bear with me a second. And let me just say, Mr. Fisher asked me to become involved with this project when he got his date for this hearing. He and his wife are celebrating their 40th anniversary and had plans for over a year to be in Hawaii, and he is literally in the air as we speak. I know his wife would not have understood him being here on such a special occasion. So, there are a number of things that we're going to bring to your attention, but I've provided the staff with 5 pages directly out of our PowerPoint presentation so that they're easily retrievable. Your secretary, Cheryl, has those, and at this time, Mr. Stillwell is going to come forward and begin the presentation, and then we'll do a little switch hitting as we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Avis. Good morning. For the record, my name's Clark Stillwell. My professional address is 320 South Highway 41, the Brandon Bank Building in Inverness, Florida. And at the request of Mr. Fisher and Avis, I have been asked to assist. First off, I want to say right up front, I'm battling a really bad back. So if I stop for a moment, you'll know that I'm having a muscle spasm. So bear with me.
Sure thing.
The application is in multiple parts. Multiple parts of the application is 2 major items: a small scale plan amendment and a PUD amendment. The PUD amendment has multiple aspects to it, and that's probably where we're going to spend most of our time, but let's start with the small scale plan amendment. It's on 4.7 acres. It is a stub out piece that sticks into the Crystal Glen PUD prior plat and PUD. It is designated MDR-H, that's medium density residential mobile homes. The application takes that into the land use of MDR with a PUD overlay. It is in the planned service area. It's in the Central High Ridge. The density proposed for this piece is authorized under the MDR regulations. In this particular addition to Crystal Glen, eliminates any concern about that asterisk for mobile homes in this area. So in that regard, it's a positive. Now, there is an increase in density as a result of adding this, and it's about 1/3 of the total increase in density that's proposed. Now, just a bit of history. The original PUD was done by Carl Maneri and John Hudson. They were developers from Pasco County. They did Crystal Glen and Crystal Oaks simultaneously. I had the pleasure of doing this project in the late 80s. It was kind of a first under the 86 code. One of the things you'll see between those 2 projects, which we then took later on, when I say we, Avis and I, and others into Citrus Hills and places like Black Diamond, was the idea of internal collector roads. That is, here in Crystal Glen, Crystal Oaks, Black Diamond, and Citrus Hills, you'll find collector roads inside of the residential project. And those collector roads are wider, and there's generally no single-family access to them. They take the traffic off the local roads and take it to, in this particular case, State Road 44 or County Road 480. Good thing about collector roads and the fact that there's no access to them from single family, they give you clear visibility, and they're generally safer. I can tell you what we found, though, in all of those subdivisions is when people see that wide road, 2 feet wider, the pavement, and they see all that open space, they go faster. It's just an inherent public inherent thing. There's no cars, big road. They drive a little faster than you would have, say, on a local road. Now, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the comp plan amendment. I think you see the benefit of it, and it's a small scale amendment, and it in fact adds to the project. The PUD, let's start with the fact that you had the total PUD followed by the plat, which was only part of the original PUD, and then the project developed. Now this project, just like a lot of other projects in Citrus County, has struggled with build out. We've had, since this project has been built, I can think of at least three economic downturns, one of which was major. And as it sits here to date, it has a limited number of vacant lots. And when you get to that point, then it's time to expand. Now, the proposed expansion, as Avis will tell you, basically sets forth the same type of units, with the exception of some of the units which are clustered and separated from abutting units are smaller on frontage and on lot size and higher on impervious surface ratios. The PUD ordinance in 1986 and the PUD ordinance today similarly speak to flexibility in design when you have a project. There's a rule in the development business that if you're not sold out within 7 to 10 years, you meet yourself coming around. The circle's complete and you're staring at yourself. What that means is when you build that project and you sell that first lot, if you're not out of there in 10 years, and the person that you're competing against is the person that you sold the first house to. It's a given fact. It's an axiom we all try to avoid or live with, but basically, but in Florida, with this boom or bust situation, that axiom is difficult to achieve. So in this particular subdivision, like others, the developer has met itself coming around, and there's been a series of developers. But the idea here is to have a viable residential subdivision, and that requires dealing with market situations. In Citrus Hills, and Avis can speak to that with much more authority than I, that housing project and that type of housing has been modified 3 times, each to reflect what the market is about. And that market today is different than it was in the 80s. In the 80s, everyone thought about your magical 4 units per acre, single-family subdivision, okay? The market doesn't want that. Some of the market wants that now, but the market wants smaller units, less maintenance, and ability to achieve a price point that they can live with. So that's what's driving the amendment, to add additional units and add this area where you have smaller units. A viable housing market in a subdivision is good for all. You just don't want to build the same thing over and over again and just have it sit there. So that's why we're here. I did have the benefit of reading the petition that was provided, and I'll speak to that. Well, first off, let's go back to the PUD. There's no issue of compatibility here. It's single family versus single family. Okay, it's just a little modification in size. Compatibility issues, since we're doing density within the framework of the code that is below the MDR limit, the code expressly states that there is no issue of compatibility. Concurrency, central water and sewer, no issues of environmental constraints on the project whatsoever. So it's a good land use for this area. If you look at the land use map, you'll note that there's a great deal of high intensity development around this project. And why is that? Well, in 86 and in 90, planners, the public looked at this and said, this is going to be a growth area. You have a 1,000-foot commercial infill area abutting this project to the north and east. You don't see that 1,000 feet of depth for commercial anywhere in the county other than here. And that's because it's an appropriate area for that higher intensity development. But getting back to the comments on the petition, almost all of them deal with traffic. They say, why are you concerned? Why are you concerned? And the people were very direct and said, traffic. Well, the increase in traffic, AWIS estimates at 800 average daily trips per day. That's based on the ITE general standard of about 10 trips per day for a single-family household. If you recall, when you did your impact fee update, in the analysis that was done on single-family traffic then, Citrus County's at about 5.5, maybe 6 trips per day. And the distinction is because of the age of the residents of Citrus County. So you can take that 800 and really bring it down to about 400. And if you look at it in the sense of peak hour, okay, it even gets less. But the fact of the matter is, you've got internally this collector road to capture that traffic, and it's built to take it. So I would say to you the traffic increases are nominal, okay, and they're being dealt with by the collector roads being maintained throughout. One of the comments in the petition was that the additional area would be subject to the bylaws of the Crystal One POA. As you well know, deed restrictions are not binding on this board in any form or shape. There may be anecdotal evidence as to compatibility, but by the same token, the code says that the planning decisions don't impair those deed restrictions. But there are no deed restrictions on the part that we intend to plat. I'm sure that the developer will have a set of deed restrictions. They'll be separate and they'll be compatible with what's being proposed here for today. But the idea of taking a prior to development's restrictions and imposing them in the planning process has never been done, and frankly, I don't think you can do legally. Okay. The second item, or one of the items, deals about the construction access road. The code doesn't require that. The code does say that you have to have a second entrance if you have more than 75 units, and this project does meet that standard. But it's a good idea, and the developer has laid that out. The idea of making that permanent, as proposed by the petition, I think is erroneous, because the other side of the equation, we don't know what's going to go there. We don't know the intensity of it. We don't know the location of the commercial. We don't know the type of housing that's going to go there. So that temporary construction road will be built. It will be used for the construction of the subdivision, and it'll serve a purpose. Now, is it going to stop home construction? No, because there's being home construction now, and there's well, 20-some vacant lots still in phase one to be built on. So again, the idea conceptually on a temporary basis is a good one. The developer agrees to it, but as far as a permanent location at this time, that's beyond the scope of your or my collective knowledge of where it should or should not go. There's a comment finally in the petition about feeder roads, and particularly one road. There's a road, the name of which I have in my notes, but it escapes me. Help me, Avis. What's it? It starts with a B. Brookfield. Thank you. There it is, South Brookfield. I can't read my own writing. South Brookfield has 88 houses on it. Okay, it is a dead-end road. Right now, with 88 houses, your code will require 2 access points. It only has 1. So as it sits there, it's not in compliance with your code. More importantly, the code limits the length of any cul-de-sac in the subdivision, and the reason why is public safety. If you have these long cul-de-sacs, getting in and out, if you need fire, emergency services like ambulance, is problematic. So that's why you have two entranceways. So as much as the residents may have enjoyed the fact that they don't have through traffic, when that South Glen Crystal Road goes forward, to meet code, that's going to have to be tied in. And that's not a discretionary item. It's a mandatory item under your code. So, to conclude, I think everyone wants to enjoy the benefit of a viable real estate market. And you can't ignore the fact that the market has changed, and what we proposed, Mr. Maneri, Mr. Hudson back in the 1986, isn't what the market wants today. So what Mr. Fisher has proposed is tweak one area that's separate from the other area and try to meet that market demand. That leads to a viable, livable community. Any questions of me? Otherwise, Avis will take over.
Well, we'll let your team finish up, and then we'll see if the board has questions.
That's great. Thank you.
We're a fine bunch. Let's turn to the first slide. I think it's really important to set the context of this property. And you can see how it's situated adjacent to a Duke Power transmission easement running north-south, adjacent to the west, and then 490 diagonally that there is the road Country Hill from this project that connects into Crystal Glen Drive, which is the collector road we've been spending some time talking about. And to the east, you can see the pasture land that is owned by this individual, and that's why, because he owns that, he's willing to step up, and it was in your PowerPoint meeting the quasi-judicial deadline, so that you could see that we are trying to work with our residents out there, acknowledging the ability to create a temporary heavy construction access. So let's go to the next slide. This is what Mr. Stillwell was sharing with you, and you can see the depth of that commercial like no other place in Citrus County. When you're a mile, 1.1 miles from that, and driving through there this morning, thinking that in just a couple of months we're going to have Suncoast Parkway operational, and that's going to make a significant impact on our county's future. You can see the blue just to the east. That's the county's maintenance properties where the transportation center is, and the lands to the southwest are actually public lands designated conservation, and it's a large tract that continues south from there. So in some senses, when I was sitting down with the residents, we had a meeting back on September the 8th. One of the things that they talked about was wanting to have another access over to 490, but the reality is when you've got a piece of conservation land buttressing virtually 80 to 90% of that new phase, the probability of that is virtually impossible. So let's go to the next slide, which is the Land Development Code, what we fondly know as zoning. The one difference between the comp plan designations is, and you'll notice the crosshatch, the beige with the diagonal lines on it, that's where today the zoning allows mobile homes. And you can see the little protrusion into the property. And that's that 4.7 acre piece that Mr. Stillwell described, which is a portion, the small-scale amendment that's going to be a part of this application, assuming that you recommend approval. And so otherwise, everything else is reasonably consistent and is reflective of what's out there today. Now, as always, projects go through multiple adjustments over time. Let's turn to the next slide, if you will, please. This is, thank you, the 1987 approved plan for the PUD. What's outlined, and by the way, if we can pass out, these are 5 sheets directly from this PowerPoint presentation, so it is admissible information. She just, I don't know if she's passed it out yet. If you would please, that way you will have 5 sheets out of there that I think are the most critical parts of the PowerPoint, so that you'll have ready reference to it. The purple area is the 4.7 acres that we will be bringing into the planned development. Now, the area in blue is actually a small portion of the original Phase 3, but it was actually platted and constructed in Phase 1. And this is not surprising. These are the kinds of changes that happen over time for a lot of reasons. So the blue area is already platted, and the plat does not reflect this master plan that you see here. But the intent of it and the numbers were consistent, so the county allowed that platting back in 1989. Now, the area that's outlined in red is actually a portion that was supposed to be part of the original PUD Phase 2, but it was not platted or constructed. Consequently, when you're looking at a direct comparison of the numbers that, when you're trying to compare apples to apples of what happened over time, let's turn to the next slide, if you will. And what you'll see there is that phases 1 and 2, even though it was approved for 185 lots, actually was platted at 164. So when you go to phases 3 and 4, you don't lose those units, they simply flip to the next phase. And so what you see happening is that the phase 3 and 4 was originally approved for 165 lots, but remember those swap outs, that areas that weren't platted and areas that were, I'll call it, overplatted. And so what you have in phase 1 is 21 fewer units platted. Phases 3 and 4 are actually adding 52 lots. So what that amounts to when you start totaling it is the real comparison, apples to apples, is a difference of 52 units. Now, remember the 4.7 acres that we're adding in. That adds another 27 lots. And that brings the grand total with the addition of lands to 79 lots. Still, whether we're talking 52 or 79, that's a very nominal increase to the project as a whole. Let's move on to the site plan, and I believe this is your time, Paul. So if you'll come up and explain to us how you developed the plan that is now before the board, I would appreciate it.
Okay, my name is Paul Gibbs, GIBBS, 1773 East Cleveland Street, Hernando, Florida, Citrus Hills. I'm a landscape architect and land planner, and I've been involved, I was actually involved in the original PUD as well of Crystal Glen and Crystal Oaks, almost all of Terra Vista, a lot of Brentwood, et cetera. So I've been involved for many years in a lot of the subdivision planning in this county. On this project for today, I wanted to kind of go over, highlight some of the proposed changes why we're here with this application. First off, north is to the left on the map, State Road 44 being on the left, and then on the right side is south. The areas highlighted in yellow, that is the existing phases 1 and 2 that Avis was talking about, and they're about 95% built out. And what I found is looked like there's about 8 undeveloped lots. 6 of those are owned by people that are already living in Crystal Glen. A lot of people would buy an adjacent lot next to their house. So as Clark had said, I mean, this area is ripe for development. There's no lots, essentially no lots left to build in this area. The last area that was built was on the east boundary, and that was Steve Fisher did that and was built out very rapidly, I believe mostly by Adams Homes. All right. To the right of the yellow areas is the proposed areas of change, what we're calling phases 3 and 4. Most of that area is in white, and you'll see the proposed lots. And then the little area shaded in gray, that's the 4.7 acres that we're adding into this project. Originally, when Crystal Glen was developed, the original PUD, there was an old house on that property that was finally removed around 2012 or so. All right. Now, one of the things the developer is proposing is a change to the minimum lot size standards. The current PUD allows lots as narrow as 60 feet, and then they have minimum square footage, a minimum of 7,200, and I think, but an average overall, the lots of, I think it's 9,600 square feet. Many of the lots, because they're on curves, they range from about 66 to 75 feet wide, would be fairly typical. Their depths are 120, actually some of them are 115. 120 is fairly typical, and they go up to 125 and maybe a few more larger than that. What we're proposing is a lot size minimum of 50 by 120. So you can see we're not too different from what is currently allowed in the current PUD. Some of the more recent subdivisions that's come across y'all's desk are the Fairways project in Beverly Hills. That's right in the middle of the golf course. It's I believe all the roads are built, but that is a 50-foot wide lot development. There's 207 lots there. And then another one that I worked on was called Davis Reserve next to Brentwood, and that one is proposing 40-foot wide lots, and there's 400 of those. So in Citrus County and the projects I do in Marion County, 50-foot wide lot is what the market is asking for. It's what the homeowners are buying. It's what the builders are requesting. Let me see here. The changes to the setbacks, we're making 2 minor changes to that. We're asking to reduce the front setback by 5 feet. It's currently a 25-foot setback, and we're requesting to change that to 20 feet. Again, that's almost standard in a lot of these 50-foot lot products. Now, one thing, I mean, even with a 20-foot house setback, your driveway, if you're going all the way up to the back of the curb, it's still going to be about 33 feet or so long. So, I mean, you'll still have a decent driveway in the house setback from the edge of the pavement. You won't notice much difference in that. And then the rear setback, we're requesting to change that from it's 10 feet now to 5 feet. And what I found by looking at the developed areas of phases 1 and 2, is most of the homes don't come anywhere close to even the 10 feet to the property line. The ones that do are typically the ones that have the swimming pools. Another change, so again, we're asking for a 5-foot difference on the front and the rear setbacks. They're already allowed 5-foot side setbacks. We're requesting to modify the ISR, or impervious surface ratio, how much lot coverage you could have. Currently, it's 50%, and we're requesting 65%, but that will be not on a lot-by-lot basis, but on a area-wide, like phase 3 and 4 area-wide basis. And again, that's something typical that's been approved for many of these similar developments in Citrus County. Now, I did a test the other day just to see. So I took a mid-size Adams home with the 2-car garage, a lanai, a front porch, air conditioner pad, driveway, etc. And without a pool, on the 50 by 120 lot, I came up right at 50% ISR. So it could certainly work for at least the middle-size home that would be likely built in phases 3 and 4. Now, it's hard to see on the screen. Avis will have another slide shortly that'll show it a little clearer. But the interface between the yellow areas and the new areas, the majority of it, we do not have any of the new lots backing up or directly touching any of the phases 1 and 2 areas. We're either divided by a drainage pond, or we're divided by the 80-foot extension of Crystal Glen Drive. And interesting, I was looking at the plat for the southern end of phases. I believe it's phase, the area that's toward the power line. They have a 25-foot tract between the back of the lots and the proposed extension of Crystal Glen Drive. So we're going to be over 100 feet from the back of the closest lot to a new proposed lot. So we tried to keep things like that in mind when we were laying it out in terms of being compatible with what's existing in Crystal Glen today. And again, Avis has a slide that'll show a lot of our larger lots are along Crystal Glen Drive extension, which is the blue dashed line. And so that's that. You'll also see on here 2 areas shaded in green. The area closest to 44, the developer Steve Fisher, he deeded that to the HOA or POA in Crystal Glen in 2013, I believe. So that's already a 1.5 acre passive park piece of land that the POA could do with as they choose to. And I believe, if I understand the history right, that came about when the former clubhouse was closed down, and that's now a radio station. And that was their original clubhouse. And let's see here. And then in the proposed phase, you'll see another green area along Crystal Glen Drive extension. And that also acts to provide some buffering between the existing homes and our proposed new development section. And the final thing, I had mentioned the blue dash line. The solid blue line is the existing Crystal Glen Drive, and the blue dashed line is the proposed extension through phases 3 and 4, and you'll see it kind of loops around and will dead end at the eastern boundary. And that's property that's also owned by Steve Fisher. And Ayus will get into that a little bit more. But I'll let Ayus take it over and go from here.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
If we can move to the next slide, and we can flip through the next three. These are actually representative homes from Adams Construction, a national builder. They have already built 17 homes, as you're seeing here, in the existing Crystal Glen. And on this last one, I actually went into the property appraiser's records, and if we can flip one more slide, that is the actual home as it sits on the property in existing Crystal Glen. And so all of these homes you just saw can fit on the proposed lot size that Mr. Fisher is asking for, the 50-foot. But again, as Paul indicated, it's by no means that all lots are 50-foot. And so if you flip to the next slide, this tells you where they were located. In your evidence filing deadline, we provided you the 17 addresses of those existing homes. 12 of them are built on South Glen Meadow Loop, 4 are built on Chadwick, and 1 is built on Brookfield. So that's where the homes that are of a similar type to what you're going to see in the new phase are located. Next slide, if you will. Mr. Fisher asked me to begin working with the Property Owners Association early on in this, and because he knew he was going to be away, that's why he asked if I would meet with the property owners, which I did on the 8th of September. And we have had ongoing dialogue back and forth. But I received, as you did, or at least the county did, a petition on Monday that outlined, and Mr. Stillwell briefly spoke to 4 points that the property owners have outlined in the way of concerns. I do believe that coordination will continue throughout this process as we hopefully move forward. And remembering that Mr. Fisher bought this property in 2006, and I know you recognize the significance of that date because he did have to ride out the Great Recession of dormancy on this property for a very long time until the last 4 to 5 years. And so it's at this point that we now see enough demand in the market to warrant moving forward with the project. You've heard about the fairways at Twisted Oaks. The same builders that are building in that project will be building in this project. The price point for the homes in the new section are $225,000 to $300,000, so you are not talking homes that are out of character with what's been built in Crystal Glen. I did share this with the residents on the 8th of September because there was some confusion about when they got their notices and the reference to the mobile homes. And what I explained to them, and you heard today, this application actually eliminates that potential. And so there was concern that there was some kind of, low-income housing project coming in next to them. And that is clearly not the case. Let's move on to the next slide. As a result of that, and this was submitted to you in time for your deadline, after the discussion with the property owners, I went back to Mr. Fisher, and we discussed that, number one, he was willing to work with the residents about providing a temporary construction access for the heavy construction that will occur. That is the dashed line, red line that you see on that map. It cuts from Laurel Street, coming off of 491 right behind the racetrack, and will diagonally connect down to the roadway, the first roadway in the new phase, so that it will entirely skirt existing Crystal Glen. So the developer has agreed to this and is willing to do that as a condition of the approval. Currently, you heard Mr. Stillwell talk about the concern about traffic on Crystal Glen Drive, but the reality is an 80-foot right-of-way, whether you're talking a Mustang Boulevard in Pine Ridge, or you're talking Fenway Drive in Terra Vista, or Brentwood Circle in Brentwood, those roadways are oversized with the capacity to handle certainly the traffic that's there, but ultimately, and the other thing that you see on this drawing, even though there may be some slight adjustments to it, is a conceptual circulation system for the property next door, which he is planning but is not quite to the point of being able to bring forward. So we wanted to provide assurance, and what you can see is down on the bottom of the slide where Paul talked about the phase 3 and 4 roadway stopping, that it would actually connect into the neighboring properties as part of a continuing collector road system. And ultimately, there are anticipated to be 2 additional connection points, 2 permanent, 2 491, and a second access out onto 44. And so in the long run, the entire community benefits as the community moves forward and is permitted to expand and move into the new lands. So we didn't want to go much farther than that, but we felt it would help to clarify what the circulation systems might look like. Let's move on to the next slide. This is the one that Paul referred to. I asked him to prepare me an exhibit that would show me where the small lots were actually physically located, the true 50 by 120s. And it's roughly half the property, half the project. The other half are larger lots, and you can see very similar to Crystal Glen existing. And what's shown in that tawny red are the small lots, and you see that there are virtually no lots even having an adjacency to existing lots in Crystal Glen. So I think it's safe to say that there's been a great care taken to ensure compatibility between the adjacent, and remember, they are still single-family homes adjacent to single-family homes. You know, you go into a Terra Vista, for example, and you have villa product adjoining other single-family areas, whether you go into the original area where when that property was opened up off of Essex up Fenway Drive, you had the villas, then you had Hillside, which was a single-family lots probably about the size of these lots, and then you had the core historical Hampton Hills First Edition, which were large lots. And so there's a lot of blending and variety in these planned developments because that gives you maximum flexibility to address the market. Same thing when you go over into Brentwood. You've got the townhomes, you've got the villas, you've got the single family areas. And each one has its own POA, a neighborhood POA that is reflective and consistent with that particular neighborhood. And that's all Mr. Fisher is asking for here. Not to introduce something foreign or inconsistent, but something that is consistent and compatible. Another issue that was raised by the residents at that meeting of September 8 is, and I submitted this in time for Ms. Katu's deadline, that he was committed to keep a condition, number 11, that he had originally asked to be removed, and in what your staff report presents does not include the so-called original condition 11 of Z-8732. And that was that individual lots would not have direct access to Crystal Glen Drive, the collector road. And you look at your drawings and you'll see that all of the access comes off of the secondary neighborhood streets that feed. So it is not designed, and he is willing to commit to having that condition reinstated in this approval going forward as the residents requested. I've talked to you a little bit about their desire to see the existing POA applied forward into the new section, and that simply is not very practical. And the staff in their report to you provided a dual set of standards that would apply in the phase 1 area, and then separate standards that would apply in the new proposed area. And that would then ensure that anything on the remaining vacant lots to be built would be totally consistent and following the standards of the existing PUD. And I really have to, if there's one thing I'd like to leave you with, a PUD is not synonymous with a POA. They are not the same thing at all. And the better that you can have a cohesive neighborhood under a set of standards that is relevant to their area makes much better sense. And so that's why we anticipate that, and there may be other further sub-neighborhoods, just like you have in all of the big planned communities, as the development proceeds to the east on the properties yet to be developed. So, from a planning perspective, to approve a PUD, the following has to be satisfied. And in my August 18th report that I submitted as supplemental information to this application, I have shown clearly that the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan and policies. Your staff agrees. The plan meets the definitional standard of compatibility under Chapter 163.31649, that single-family homes are what's planned, and that because, as I've shown you, they are already building these homes within phases 1 and 2 existing, the compatibility standard is clearly there. Market conditions have changed, as we've all spoken to you about since 1987. We know for a fact by the market response that smaller lots are preferred. Not the exclusive, but it is an option that many people are choosing. This project will have no adverse impact on public infrastructure, in particular roads, water, and sewer. The passive recreation is actually increased by 19% with the additional site that is shown on our master plan. And that all conditions of approval in the past have been met, and assuming that you consider the staff's recommended conditions, the developer is amenable to those, including, as I indicated, the reintroduction of condition 11, which was submitted prior to your deadline. I therefore respectfully ask that you consider recommending approval to the Board of County Commissioners of a project that really deserves approval. It has met the tests. It's the right project at the right time in the right place, according to Citrus County plans, regulations, and policies. and we'll all answer any questions you might have of us.
Thank
Are
you,
there any
ladies.
questions?
Are there questions from the board for the applicant?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Craig, could
Commissioner
you,
Worthington.
thank you. Could you please, state what condition 11 is, because I'm not.
Well, there is a secondary sheet that the staff has, and if she can pass those out, there's actually two conditions on there. One to deal with the temporary construction easement, which we also submitted in time with our PowerPoint for consideration here today. And so there are two conditions that I have drafted, one of which restates the old condition 11, and then secondly, provides for the construction access.
I'll tell you, she's talking about a little bit of new material, but this is in your packet in her backup. There is a statement with the conditions crossed through, and it's called page 9 in my book for some reason. I think it's 9 of what her submittal was, and it has condition 11 in there that reads, no residential unit shall have direct access to the collector road.
Joanna, what page is that?
You know, in my book, it's called page 9. It's right after the staff report, and then you have the locator map, and then you'll see something titled Avis Marie Craig at the first page, and it's page 9 of that submittal. Has that particular condition.
Thank you, that's my only question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions that
And
you
Mr.
have
Chair, if I could cross for a second first, and then,
Sure thing.
thank
of
you.
the applicant?
No problem. I just want to ask a question about the slide that you have up there now. I know you
Yes.
offered a couple conditions. I can't read the fine print. Are those, those are smaller lots as in less than 60 feet width?
The tawny ones are the 50 by 120s.
Okay, so you're saying that the developer.
The white ones are larger.
Right, the developer would be amenable to a condition such as no lots less than 60 feet in width will abut phase 1 and 2, I think, or be across the street from phase 1 or 2. Does that, seems to match that map? I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track with what you're proposing.
Actually, I do believe you are correct.
Okay,
There's only one, as you see, up on the top of the slide, we'll call it. It is across the street from that already deeded passive recreation site.
but it's not really part of the phasing. It's a part
not
of your
deve-
new
it's
area.
not lots. That's
Right.
correct.
So
That's
I
why
think if we worded it, we don't have individual lots. It's not to that scale. So I think something like no less than 60 feet in width for any lots abutting existing phase 1 and 2 or directly
Lots.
across the street,
Yeah.
right, from phase 1
Okay.
and 2 seems to me that I just want to make sure that was what that was actually showing.
that is definitely.
Thank you. So that's a condition offered by the applicant.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the board?
I'll just make a statement real quick.
Commissioner
That
Bramlett.
I had written down several questions,
Yes, sir.
but your presentation was very thorough,
Okay.
and most of the questions that I had, you guys answered already.
Yes, sir.
I think in reading the residents, the current residents' petition and questions and objections, I feel like all the reasonable objections have been addressed by the developer, and I think that it clearly shows that he's trying to work with the neighborhood. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much for a nice presentation.
Thank you, sir. I might mention on the Brookfield issue, I mean, I can understand the residents' situation there, that they've enjoyed a quiet, dead-end street for a long time. The reality is that street is over twice the length. 1,500 feet is the normal code-required length for a cul-de-sac. And you heard Mr. Stillwell explaining that. And as much as I have sympathy for the residents, the reality is it is platted. The improvement plans are already approved back in 1989, and Mr. Fisher has no ability to do other than to follow those existing plats and conditions, and with the safety considerations. As much as I am sympathetic, everybody likes to live on a quiet dead-end street, I understand.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you,
Thank you, sir.
and to your team, thank you. we hear from staff at this point?
Good morning, It's Dawn, I hope so. Joanna Coutu, Land Development. And I'm going to try to see if this works today. All right, this is an aerial of Crystal Glen. You had a thorough presentation before me, but I'm going to go over this a little bit more. You can see the platted areas, not completely developed, but mostly developed in that area. And this is the existing master plan for Crystal Glen. You can see the little bite punch out there that was not owned by the owner of developer of Crystal Glen at the time. That is the area that's proposed for a land use change. And let me go back one. So talking about the land use change very quickly, Mr. Stillwell talked about it quite a bit. It's 4.7 acres, and I'm calling it a bite. It's that little rectangle right there. It actually is zoned MDR MH. It could allow for a mobile home today. They are trying to change it to planned development residential to put it in here. It certainly makes sense, kind of squaring off the rectangle on that particular item. So that is your land use change item here. The rest of it is to amend this existing master plan. It was done in 1987. A lot of standards have changed. They're correct. Housing types have changed. Everything has changed since then. So they are updating the area. Phase 2 was not completely developed. As you can see in the yellow, it was partially developed and then stopped for whatever reason. And so they would be actually calling what's phase 2 in here on gray as part of phase 3 and 4 instead for the new development area. Some of the changes, okay, there's been 165 units constructed. They were allowed 350 for a density of 2.8. They are proposing 429 units for a density of 3.4. I can tell you they can go much higher than that. They can go up to 6 units an acre by right. We also need to think about the numbers there maybe aren't a little fair because they're talking about the numbers in the residential area only and not talking about the fact that they're adding some parks in. And when you take in the parks and you take in the streets, we are looking at a much more similar density. Instead of existing as 2.12 and proposed as 2.52. So not a lot of difference here. As far as for width, we talked about that a little bit too. 60-foot minimum width with 7,400 square foot minimum and a 9,600 square foot average. In the 80s, that was almost a standard in subdivisions that they did an average lot size. It was a nightmare for permitting, but that's what we did. Now they're proposing 50-foot minimum widths with 6,000 square foot minimum. They are smaller lots, but you heard from Ms. Craig that they are proposing a condition to keep the particular 50-foot minimum widths away from the existing Crystal Glen. This is a zoom in of what is in the site plan itself, your table. It talks about not only is the lot size changing, but lot coverage is changing because the lots are smaller. So instead of 50%, they do want 65%, but that is calculated on the entire plat. That's going to be more common in planned developments as we see more townhome type units, although the picture she showed you, I wouldn't have called it a townhome. But these are 65% plat wide, also consistent with other PUDs in the county. Remember, this is in the Central Ridge. Environmental issues are minimal, other than I do suspect there are probably some protected species like some gophers that they're going to have to deal with. As far as setbacks, they are changing it from 25 feet to 20-foot front and a 10-foot side on the corner lots. And talked about rear setbacks are going from 10 feet to 5 feet. Again, not inconsistent with other PUDs in the county. So this is the new site plan, and you did hear a lot of information about that. To go over some of the changes very quickly, I talked about the increase in number of units. We did correct condition number 2, access to adjacent unplatted lands. The existing condition says it'll be to the west, south, and east. Well, south, it never was contemplated in the first place. I think they were referencing the fact that you had to go from the existing to the new area. So we took out the word south. That doesn't apply here. Condition number 3 addressed utilities. They are hooking up to Citrus County Regional Water and Sewer like existing Crystal Glen. That development agreement criteria is long gone for this particular item, but they are having to hook up with county water and sewer. So we did put in some particular language in condition number 3 specific to utilities, which talks about developers agreement or similar mechanism can be used. Utilities is aware, and they say there is capacity for this project. Number 4 is about the setbacks, and I did talk to you about the new changes that are going in for phase 3 and 4. We did get rid of the average lot size. That again is not a norm anymore, but we do have minimum lot sizes. Number 6 and 7 have not changed, talking about minimum open space and no direct access for the commercial onto 490 or 44. Those are existing. Condition number 8 talks about A-cell, D-cell lanes. Now the applicant did initially propose to remove that. Engineering had some concerns with that. They are going to have to, at the time of platting and at the time of commercial development out there in 44, give us a trip analysis. Do they need a turn lane? Do they not? What kind of access management do they need? So that particular condition number 8 is wording directly from engineering to address that. Condition 9 is also existing. A sidewalk has to be on one side of the main collector. The applicant has added and neighborhood streets. I'll point out they are putting several parks in here too. They were not required to do so, but that's the green area shown on the master plan. Very good to see that they're putting that in there for the new residents. So in addition to the 9 conditions, the applicant has just offered 3 separate ones. You heard me talk about the no residential lots less than 60 foot in width would have direct access to existing Crystal Glen Phase 1 and 2 or be directly across the street from those lots. I will word it a lot more clear when we actually put it down in paper. They also talked about the no condition number 11, that was an old condition brought forward. No residential units shall have direct access to the collector road. If you look at their design, that is true. None of these on this particular road. There's no lots that front solely on that. They all do front on a side road, so that's fine. They've offered that one. And the last one they did offer was the construction access. You can see on their slide it came in from Laurel Avenue. I don't have a slide of that. That's a pretty new addition, and not on Crystal Glen. Again, that's not something in our land development code. I do think it probably will address a lot of concerns because where it is proposed to access on Laurel is commercial on either side. When you come down 491 from 44, you'll see a very, very pretty paved road leading to nowhere. That's the road they're talking about. Not used at this time might be a good idea. They'd be driving cross country across the developer's land to get to this, but if that's going to, calm down construction traffic, wonderful. So instead of just the 9 conditions, we would have 12, assuming that the 3 that are proposed by the applicant are also approved. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the board?
I got a question for you,
Sure.
Joanne, if you don't mind. Can you touch on a little bit on the phase 1? They had 29 leftover lots. They carried it over to phase 2. Now they're at phase 3. I could not find anything in the land development code that says that that's permissible.
Right, there's not, yeah, I think the point that she was trying to make is that it wasn't entirely built, so we have a lot of lots left over that never were built, and we're going to use those in this area. Phase 2 was not completely built. Phase 2 was only partially built in the yellow area, only a piece of it was. So it wasn't quite like things are moved around. The original number was 350, and only this many were built. So they have what's left plus what they're asking for. There's not a swap or a transfer. They're asking for more lots, 429 instead of 350.
If they ask for so many lots in phase 1, and they don't use those lots, it's permissible by our building code to
It's not that it's
calculated in this plan?
right. It's not that phase 1 said 50 lots and they only built 40, so we have 10. We can move them elsewhere. That's not what's happening here. In phase 2, phase 1 and 2, they were approved for 185. They only platted 164, but it's the entire PUD. So what she was trying to point out was that they had 21 lots that they still never developed in phase 2, and so we have 21 plus whatever was phase 3 and 4, which was 165. So that was what she was trying to point out. It's not a transfer, but the overall PUD allowed this many.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
No,
Thank you, Joanna.
no problem.
At this time, I will open this public hearing to the public for their comments. I will ask at this point for anyone who is in favor of this application to please come forward. Anyone in favor? Seeing no one, I will ask for anyone who would like to be heard that is opposed to this application, please come forward.
is Therese Thomas. Last name is Thomas. I live at 1419 South Chatsworth Point in Crystal Glen. We purchased our house in January. We liked the sizes of lots. We would like you to consider the third amendment that Mr. Fisher is requesting, a change to the existing PUD to allow an increase in the overall number of single-family residential lots and reduce the setbacks. You understand that 5 feet here and 5 feet here and 5 feet here really add up. My home is on the little blue lot, dotted line on the bottom of the picture. No reason for that road. It'll become a parking lot for campers and boats. We request that you ask him to reconsider that short little road there and also the size of lots. You can see the nice curvy cul-de-sac setup of the existing Crystal Glen. Sorry, I'm nervous. My voice is shaking. And the setup of the new lots, we directly oppose the 50-foot size lots. Go with the original PUD or similar of what was proposed in 1986, I think it was, and to be more consistent with the existing homes and neighborhood type setting that is there. You can see that almost looks like a trailer park, the way they've set it up there with the lots. And we would like him to consider a redraw of wider lots, existing setbacks as they are in the existing Crystal Glen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to, just one couple sentences from an op-ed editorial page in the Crystal County, I can't remember the name of the paper, I'm new here, thank you. With the upcoming opening of the parkway, the market is going to change. Avis mentioned the market is looking for 50-foot lots and smaller yard settings. The market's going to change with the opening of the parkway. We're going to see an influx of people in this neighborhood, probably from the Tampa area, we don't know. And it's inconsistent with the lot sizes and the aesthetics of the existing Crystal Glen. And this op-ed in the paper mentions, what will the future of Crystal County or Citrus County look like in the future? Will it be planned with economic and aesthetic considerations taken into account in development, or will it solely be driven by individual landowners seeking to maximize the value of their land, regardless of the aesthetic of the community? So we would like you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, no reactions to the speakers. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Charles Hannes. I live at 1099 South Brookfield Drive, Lecanto. A lot of people are moving to Florida. Area's growing. I moved here 3 years ago. I love it. I love the development that I live in. And I don't per se oppose Mr. Fisher's development. I wish him the best. I hope he sells all the lots in one day. But what I am concerned about, you mentioned about Brookfield not conforming to code because it's too long and it's supposed to have 2 entrances. But if you look at the map, this whole subdivision realistically only has 1 entrance, Crystal Glen Drive from 44, and a little bit off of Country Hill Road off of the 490. That is one big cul-de-sac. I was in law enforcement for 34 years. And I can tell you, if you want to talk about public safety and rescue, you want to have 2 entrances and 2 exits. And a permanent entry and exit off of 491 makes perfect sense. Because right now what they're proposing is all the traffic gets pushed to 44 or to 490. 800 cars a day more. Simply open that up. It makes common sense. They have future developments in the plan. They talk about it in their application, and Mr. Fisher owned land on page 2. The owner-developer also owns adjoining lands, which will eventually allow further connections, not only to State Highway 44 and County Road 490, but Country Road 491 as well. they know this. They know they need to have a separate entry and exit extending across. It's only a matter of public safety. You talk about rescue squads and fire departments and such. As far as the lot sizes goes, I don't know. I don't understand one sidewalk on one side of the street and not the other. I think that's in the application somewhere. Maybe that's how new homeowners think. A little bit of problem with the draining retention ponds. It just shows one. I don't know if that's big enough to handle all of that. Perhaps it is. But yeah, the developer has worked with us. Ms. Craig did show up at a POA meeting and took a lot of questions, a lot of heat, as a matter of fact. But they're correct. They have worked with us. I'm happy that they're willing to build a construction road. Okay, I guess I'm done.
Yeah, you can conclude your comments,
Okay,
but your time has expired.
Yeah, Crystal Glen Drive is in perfect shape. The county wants to raise taxes right now to repave roads. Let's keep that nice. Let's have a construction entry and exit and a permanent one as well. It makes common sense for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good morning.
Morning.
John O'Connor, 3835 West King B Street. I'm actually the property that butts up against the southern corner of the slide. I unfortunately don't have access to these slides. I mean, I was going to ask, is there a way to get copies of the 5 pages? I only have my proposed letter that the county sent because I am in direct access to that property, adjacent to that property, excuse me. I've been on the road for 25 years now. My wife and I were the ones that called 911 when the trailer caught fire. That is the proposed gray piece that she had referred to earlier. The night that that caught fire and burnt, and fire department nor sheriff's department could find a way in there. Me personally on West King B, I'd like to see the code left the way the code is and not double the amount of the houses being put in there. I realize we can't stop it. I'm just against it. That's it. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to be heard? Anyone else who would like to address the board? Third and final call. Seeing no one, I'll return the conversation back to the board. Would the applicant like to rebut any of the comments made by the public?
It's hell to get old. Just briefly, on this lot size thing, I dragged out my 86 code, looked at it. In 1986, the minimum lot size that could have been proposed here was 50 feet. That was under the 86 code. Mr. Maneri, Mr. Hudson, based on their experience, felt like the appropriate lot size for 60 for that particular market at that particular time. In 2012 and then in 2016, the county then said that if you're in the planned service area with central water and sewer, you could go to a 40-foot lot size. And they did that in recognition of what the market is today. Now, this proposal doesn't make every lot 50 feet. It only makes a select number 50 feet, and they're, as you can see, condensed. I mean, the developer could have gone 40 feet, but he elected not to, and I think that point should be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll return the hearing back to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
I would just like to echo Commissioner Bramlett's comments earlier regarding Mrs. Craig, Mr. Stillwell, Mr. Gibbs' presentation. It was very well done, and it answered a lot of my questions as well as you went through your presentation. I feel like the applicant has worked with the residents of Crystal Glen Phase 1 and 2 to alleviate some of their concerns. As far as the aesthetics of this county and with the road opening, I think people have a misperception because there's only so many buildable lots, and we have protections in our land development code that protect the waterways, and also we have a lot of conservation land that prevents building and turning Citrus County into, let's say, Newport Richey. So we have some protections as far as that is concerned. This project has already been approved. What we're here today is just to decide if we'll accept these minor changes, and I am in favor of them and this project going forward.
Thank you. Other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Stone.
I think the applicant has presented his information very good, and as Commissioner Worthington has noted, has addressed many of the issues that the property owners are concerned with the exception of the density and lot size of the proposed new addition. The applicant is using the existing PUD to justify the numbers to carry forward to a revised PUD, yet omitting to carry forward the limitations on lot size and density. Okay, so I see that as being inconsistent, or at least trying to have it both ways. We want to justify the number of houses we build, but we don't want to carry forward the density. So we have been last meeting we were admonished by staff that the state requires us to consider property rights of individual owner property rights. I note that some 91 owners in the existing PUD object to the revisions to the existing PUD with respect to density and lot size. In conformance with our directions, I would look out after their interest of property rights, and I would be against this revision.
Thank you. Other comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, I just really,
Commissioner Barnes.
I only have a couple of concerns. I think it's a great project, first of all, and I think they did Stillwell and the team did present a great case. I'm stuck on two things. I'm stuck on stormwater, wastewater, big issue. I see lack of that on this drawing. I would like to see more stormwater drainage. We have a flood issue concerns now. According to climate change, it's going to get nothing but worse. So I think they should incorporate that into their site plan. And second of all, I agree with the resident that was a fire or police chief or law enforcement. That is a one giant cul-de-sac in my opinion. That was one of my biggest concerns when I first saw it. I believe they should have a secondary road coming in. And then my final thing I like to say is that, I'm stuck on the increasing of the number of lots. You can only get so many, sardines in a can. And you can only get so many of them out of that can at a certain time. And if there was an emergency in that neighborhood and everybody had to vacate out of those two exits, I think half the people will be stuck there. So I think that we need to create, or they need to come back and create a better plan for access. So the way that the program and the application sits, I would be totally against it. And I would not be voting in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes. Other comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, could I just ask Joanna, is the stormwater drainage indicated there, does that meet code? Are they within the code for that?
They're at the conceptual site plan stage, so they're not required to show or do the calculations or anything. Obviously, at platting time, they have to meet all stormwater management. They're not getting a pass because it has a lot here and they need to put a DRA instead. This is a conceptual plan, and it's understood in every plat they have to meet, like they decide to do 10 houses in one plat, we'll have to address stormwater, whatever.
And Joanna, can you just review that process, when the applicant gets to that point?
Right. This is a conceptual plan, and so when they decide to do the first phase, and it might be the entire thing, I doubt it, it might be a set of 10 lots, 20 lots, 30 lots. On that particular one, they're asking to create the lots. They're going to give us a layout that looks somewhat like this, but they're also going to have to address stormwater for what they're proposing. They're asking for ISR, impervious surface, across that entire plat, so they're going to have to calculate all the lots out to that maximum ISR and deal with any roads that they're putting into with that plat. And stormwater has to address that. Now, if they're going to build another phase right away, they might oversize it so the next time they won't have to build as much. But every plat is going to be required to meet stormwater, not before you guys. I certainly am not reviewing stormwater, but our engineers do when they are asking to create the lots.
So that, professional input, for lack of a proper term, would come from county staff, engineering staff?
Engineering staff will review that when we get those detailed plans. That's including soil borings, et cetera, for the particular lots. It's not at this stage. This is an overall, can we do this general layout? We know we're going to have to put in stormwater here. We might have to move this road curve a little bit this way, something like that.
So those changes could and would be done at that time?
Absolutely. They would not be able to create the lots if they can't meet stormwater.
Thank you.
Does that answer what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Chair, can I readdress myself then, please?
Well, I just wanted to say one more thing.
Well, I'll go to you next.
When I also look at this conceptual plan, I see 4 exits. Conceptual plan, Crystal Glen, future connections and temporary construction entrance. I see 4 exits in the future.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes? Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find those other 2 exits on my map.
She's talking about that one right here.
It's up there.
No.
Well,
She's talking about this.
you can see where
Well, it's both. There's future versus existing.
That's it. When you develop the property next door. Sterling Hills.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm perfectly understanding this. This is not the actual final.
It is a conceptual site plan. So, yeah, the final plat is going to have exact dimensions, and it's going to address stormwater, it's going to address roadway curves, all that fun
This is kind of
stuff.
like a cafe written on a napkin.
Nope, no, it is a
Plan.
conceptual plan, and they're going to have to stick to this for the most part. However, we understand stormwater is going to have to go there. Or, like I said, the curve of the road, the soils don't work, they want to save a tree. They're going to be able to move things around slightly. There are criteria in the Land Development Code for that. But stormwater is not something we address at this stage. We don't ask them to do all the soil borings and calcs right now. I agree with you that they definitely, I would say they're going to have to put some more drainage on there than what we're seeing. But it's Central Ridge. I may be wrong. We'll have to see.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for, I missed that.
Okay, other comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Grammer?
I just want to echo Ms. Worthington's comments and address a couple of the other ones. We get a lot of this happens quite a bit where the residents of a particular neighborhood that's already existing come in and voice concerns over a neighborhood that is going to be adjacent or included within their particular property and project. But I try and remind myself and remind other people that a builder and a developer is developing and building to make a profit. That's what we're all in business. That's what we do. So you can't try and hate on or beat on or feel derogatory towards a developer or a builder for wanting to make a profit. There's not one person in this room that doesn't want to make a profit. To be able to make a profit, a builder or a developer is not going to put a project together that is going to be anything grossly different than what's already there. I'm in real estate. I can tell you that a developer that comes in and tries to build something next door to, or a neighborhood that you have to drive through, and it's completely different than the neighborhood that you access there, it just doesn't work. So, and you just have to understand and know that a developer of this size project, he's going to make it conforming to what's already there. 10 foot here, 5 foot there, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. Like Ms. Katu just said with the drainage retention areas, you see the one large one in the back, it's conceptual. It's conceptual. What if we said no? What if everybody said no? They're not going to spend all the money to get the 100% nitty gritty fine details drawings done and paid for. It's a very expensive endeavor. I think that this project is a very good project. I believe that they've addressed nearly all of the complaints that I said before were reasonable. I love the explanation and I understand it, that the Brookfield Drive, and listen, I live on a dead-end street. I understand it 100%. If somebody said they were opening it up, you know, but guess what? It is what it is. I mean, when you buy a property and you buy a house and it's around or has surrounding it a bunch of undeveloped land, eventually it's going to be developed, whether it's commercial or whatever it's going to be, mobile homes, you know. But this particular project, the developer, I feel like, and I said it earlier, he's bent over backwards. The construction entrance, the land development code does not require it. So he's offering one. I think that's a huge benefit to not only to the road, but to the residents that are there, because I'm in construction as well. I know huge trucks and cement trucks and all hours of the morning and stuff like that. That can be a real drag. He's addressing that concern. The other gentleman he said double the amount of the houses, but really that's a pretty good stretch, because really we're only talking about 52 houses here. That's 52 more than what was already allowed, and actually 79, but 27 of them I think she said were because of the addition of the key cut parcel with the mobile home on there. So with that said, I would just say that I'm in favor of this application. I think it's a good project, and I believe that a lot of the people that have concerns that are being raised here, once the project is done and built out, you can see some of those new homes that the developer has already built within that neighborhood. Those lots that were undeveloped down there along the corner, along the Highway 490 or County Road 490 area, they were done very well. They're very nice looking homes. They sold, they filled up. They're being kept well, and I would expect that this new neighborhood would be the exact same.
Thank you. I too feel this is a quality project. The applicant has done a great job in presenting the facts to the board. I also do hear the concerns of the residents who live there, but I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. So I plan to vote in favor of this.
One more thing too that I just remembered I had thought of, I forgot to write it down, was the one way in, one way out on an 80-foot road. Really, okay, I understand it, but I can think of at least 3 neighborhoods right off the top of my head right now that have twice the amount of homes as this project does, and they're one way in, one way out. It's just one way in, one way out, and he has additional, actually there's 2 ways in on this one, and some of the neighborhoods that I'm thinking of actually only have one. Brentwood is one right off the top of my head right now. That neighborhood is a larger neighborhood than this neighborhood. It has one way in, one way out. So
this is not a question and answer period. I'm sorry.
With that, for the purpose of a motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Brown.
The Planning and Development Commission finds application number CPA-AA-PUD-21-12 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends approval with conditions as amended. And I don't know if we need to have those additional conditions.
All 3 by the developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one that you talked about were the no lots of less than 60 foot wide abutting
Right. There was
or
the
across
3,
street.
the no direct access on the collector, the no lots less than 60 directly abutting or across the street from existing, and the construction access would not be on Crystal Glen.
Correct. of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
Do I hear a second? I have a motion by Commissioner Bramlett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Royce, I have a motion by Commissioner Bramlett, second by Commissioner Royce. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Commissioner Stone and Commissioner Barnes are against. Motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, if I could add, this is the recommendation to the county commissioners. It is not the final hearing. Susan, when's the final hearing?
I believe it's November 16th.
Right, no, you should have had that on your notice. November 16th will be the Board of County Commissioners hearing, which should be the final hearing. I also heard a resident, ask for a copy of something. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 at the counter, or you can call us or email us, and we definitely can give you copies of any of the documents that you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brentwood, by the way, is only one entrance. I live in Brentwood, so, okay, it's time has arrived for hearing on.
November 9th.
Okay, correction. The next
I
public
apologize.
hearing.
Excuse me, the meeting is here.
Yeah, he's right. I'm sorry. Is it November 9th?
Okay.
Okay, I don't know.
It could be.
Okay,
Right,
thank
it
you.
could be.
Thank
That's
you very
probably
much,
right.
sir. Stand corrected.
I can't get into
You should have been on your notice. If you're not sure, call us. I'll look it up then.
Time has arrived for PV 21-05.
Yes, this application requests to vacate multiple platted utility easements in the Beverly Hills area. The site is part of a larger plan unit development lying on County Road 491 and is partially developed with a Walgreens pharmacy and a storage site. This photo shows the area of the request, part of which appears to lie under existing pavement. This is looking east across County Road 491 and looking north on Modelwood Drive. And this is the LDC Atlas map showing the approximate area of the easements shaded. Thank you.
I would normally say now it's time for the applicant to come forward, but I see you're already here.
Good morning. For the record, my name's Brenda McKenzie. I'm with McKenzie Permitting and Consulting. My office address is 7232 East Gospel Island Road in Inverness, and I'm here today to represent this plat vacate that we're trying to get for diamond storage. We've been working on this for months. We've got all the utility companies have sent in letters of no objections. We've done our ownership and encumbrance reports through the title company, and there's no problems with that. We've advertised. These easements were actually platted decades ago for a proposed shopping plaza that was going to go in, like with a cash and carry anchor, I think like back in the early 80s. That never happened, so these easements were put in place to accommodate a shopping center that was never built, never will be, and the property is now owned by my applicant. They own Diamond Storage, which is a first-class storage unit. It's between Black Diamond and Pine Ridge, and it's at 100% capacity, and he's turning people away daily. So he's done a beautiful job with it. It's well-maintained, and they're in the need to expand. In order for us to go forward, we've submitted for permitting. We needed to have these easements that were platted and never used vacated, and that's why we're here today. And Mr. Smith is the owner. I just had him come up with me in case there's questions you may have of him.
Questions from the board? Thank you.
I have nothing. Thank you, sir.
No comments from staff?
All right. This is an application, as she talked about, to vacate multiple easements on an old shopping center site that's now being developed. And this is approximately where they are in the aerial. This is 491 in Beverly Hills, and there is a CVS here on this corner that you can see right there. So just to get your bearings, this is the Modelwood and leading to Pine Ridge. And there's not much to see, believe it or not. This is one of the easements. You wouldn't know it. It's built as a road instead. And the easements are out here, but you can't see them. There is some old concrete from original proposed development that just never happened. And I wanted to give you why they're doing this. This is the site plan that's in for permitting to do the mini warehouse storage. They can do this as it's an allowed use. They did update the PUD to allow this, but I know it's very rough. I had trouble doing it, so I finally gave up and did it with a highlighter. That where the easements are, you can see it's in the way. So they're trying to vacate the easements. They have letters from all utility companies. Staff has reviewed this. Emergency Operations has reviewed this and has no concerns.
Any questions for staff? Thank you, Joanna. At this time, I will open the hearing to the public for any comments they may have. Anyone from the public in favor of this application? Anyone from the public opposed to this application? Seeing no one, I will declare the public portion of this hearing closed and return the hearing back to the board for discussion and possible action.
Were there any conditions?
They're not. They actually have met all of the requirements for conditions. This is just ready to move forward.
For the purpose of a motion?
Commissioner Bramlett.
The Planning and Development Commission finds application number PV-21-05 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends approval of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bramlett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Berta. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Skip that too far. Time is right for public hearing, V21-14.
Yes, the applicant is requesting a single-family dwelling having a 15-foot setback to the jurisdictional wetland line and a 40-foot setback to the center line of East Supreme Court. This is an aerial view of the subject property. A view of the property from East Supreme Court. Looking east on East Supreme Court and looking west. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant, please come forward.
Yes, good morning. I'm still Brenda McKenzie, McKenzie Permitting. This is an application. We have a very, very small lot, and is this working? It's a very small lot, and we've had a wetlands jurisdictional determination done by Michael Sorinsky's office, and the surveyors have gone out and located that JDL line, and the homeowner was far more surprised. If you look at the site plan, it basically comes like halfway into her property. Is this guy working?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on that one.
Okay. All right. So this is the wetlands jurisdictional that, as you can see, almost comes up 50% into the property. The applicant's proposing a small 16-foot wide by 56-foot wide home. It's a very isolated, very, very isolated area. They live down in the Keys. They're looking forward to coming up in this area and having a nice place out in the country. It's a private road, and this home is going to be on piers. And we have also met with Michael Wilburn with local engineering firm as far as taking care of the stormwater management plan. He's on board once we get your approval to come up with a stormwater management plan. And they also decided to put it on piers, so that would allow for any flow of water underneath it. We're asking to get a little bit closer to the road. It's kind of hard to even tell where the road is at. It's at a dead end, and I think they've asked for a very reasonable use of their property. They're just impossible to meet the 50-foot. Both there would be zero left over for a building envelope. So I'm asking today, please, the board to pass this favorably so they can move forward with their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there questions from the board for the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Questions from staff?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine, I have none, thank you, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Stone.
Ms. McKenzie, when did your owner purchase this lot?
Earlier this year.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
May we hear from staff, please?
Good morning. Joe
morning, Joe.
Hockedale, Principal Planner with Land Development. The applicant is requesting a 15-foot wetland setback and basically 15-foot setback from the edge of the right-of-way of East Supreme Court to place a single-family dwelling. The lot is about 0.27 acres in size, or 11,761 square feet, and is currently vacant, and as you can see, it's mostly wooded. And based on the environmental report we received, it has approximately 8,276 square feet of wetlands on the southern portion of the property, which is about 70% of the lot. So that leaves about 3,485 square feet of uplands. Sorry. And so here you can see this is the view of the wetlands, and there's a stake right there, and that's one of the wetland stakes. And this is a view of the uplands facing towards East Supreme Court. So the applicant is requesting to build an 896 square foot single family dwelling with a 66 square foot front stair and a 72 square foot rear stair, which is a total building footprint of about 1,034 square feet. If you look at the average in the area, especially the ones that are waterfront along that canal, the average footprint is about 1,464 square feet, so what they're proposing is less than the average. And the average wetland in that area is unknown because there's no JD line for the rest of those properties, but majority of the properties in that area are waterfront. For the average right-of-way setback, if you look at the 6 closest, it's about 63 feet to the center line or 38 feet from the edge of the property line. And so while what they're requesting is much less than the average, that average, the individual properties vary widely. So the closest property was about 16 feet from the structure to the edge of the right-of-way, and the furthest one was about 74 feet from the structure to the edge of the right-of-way. So there was a lot of variation in there. Most of the residences in this area were placed prior to current setback standards, and there have been no variances in the subject area. The available building envelope is approximately 60 square feet right there in that little corner. It looks like their drain field is going to be located in that area. And so there is a hardship on this property due to the wetlands and the right-of-way setback requirements. And so based on the proposal, this does appear to be a minimum request. The findings of fact have been found to be positive findings, and we do have suggested conditions.
Thank you, Joe. Questions from the board?
You say suggested conditions, can you reveal those?
Sure, and they're in the staff report as well, but I'll read them for you.
Please.
Condition number 1 is the single-family dwelling must maintain a 15-foot setback from the jurisdictional wetland line and a 40-foot setback from the center line of the right-of-way of East Supreme Court as outlined on the site plan received by the Land Development Division. Date stamp March 31st, 2021. Number 2, a berm swale system and or other appropriate stormwater management system acceptable to the County Engineering Division is required to be installed at the time of permitting. Number 3, runoff and erosion shall be controlled to protect the adjacent wetland and water body. And they install any measures necessary to prevent sediment transportation. Protective measures shall be installed before starting land disturbance activities as per Citrus County Code Section 42-172C. Number 4, at time of permitting, a grading and drainage stormwater plan prepared by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Florida must be provided that meets the requirements of the Land Development Code Chapter 6. And number 5, a tie-in survey demonstrating the maintenance of the required minimum 15-foot setback to the jurisdictional wetland line and minimum 40-foot setback to the center line of East Supreme Court must be submitted to and approved by the Land Development Division within 30 calendar days of establishing the lowest habitable floor level.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions from the board? Joe, I have one, actually, two. When I made the site visit, in close proximity to this property, there is a water control structure. What is that body of water that ultimately leads to the wetlands behind this proposed home?
I believe that this canal here ultimately goes out to the Withlacoochee River.
It's just an unnamed tributary?
Yeah.
But if you go, you can't see it on this slide, but on Old Oak Drive, there's a water control structure, for lack of a proper term. But the day I visited, to the left of the slide, the water that was being retained was much higher than the water behind this property.
Oh, yeah.
It would seem that in a flood situation, that would be a problem for this property and adjoining properties.
The applicant will have to build the flood requirement. So based on the base flood elevation of this area, they are going to have to elevate it. And actually, that's why they provided stairs on the site plan, is because Ms. McKenzie indicated it was going to be an elevated structure, and so we needed to know the location of those stairs.
And if you go back a couple slides, that one, you show the outline of the property, proposed property, and you also show at the top in brown the right-of-way. So is this property landlocked?
No, it does have access to East Supreme Court. East Supreme Court is a private, undeveloped, dead-end road. And it's dirt.
The color
Who owns that
difference.
piece between the
See where it's
top
white between?
property line and the
Oh.
private right-of-way?
Yes, sir. This is the right-of-way area, and the brown is the actual dirt road portion of East Supreme Court.
So the right-of-way, the private right-of-way goes to the front of the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board? Thank you, Joe. Oh, Joe, one more. Just to confirm that I heard what I believe you said, and it's the staff's position that there is a hardship to this property.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Susan, can you pull up the available building envelope one again? There you go. See the little blue triangle?
Yeah, I was gonna say, congratulations. I think this is the smallest building envelope
We've had zero.
I've ever seen, but you have to hang on a few minutes because we can say it again.
Yes.
While I'm talking, I'll just go ahead and say I'm in favor of the application. I mean, it's, 15 feet that, also, thank you very much to the applicant for not trying to build a 4,000 square foot home on the property. I mean, we've had people do that. It's, they've done a nice job, and it's beautiful out there. So I'm in favor of it.
Let's go through the process. Time to open this hearing to the public for input.
I just want to make one more comment. It will not have concrete underneath the home. It's going to be on piers, and that should help with any sort of additional raining or flood. It will not have concrete. And the setback does go to the stairs in the back and the stairs in the front, so they gained a few more feet, but they need that for access.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open the hearing to the public for input. Do I hear anyone, is anyone here who is opposed to this application? Anyone opposed? Anyone in favor of this application who would like to address the board? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one, I'll return the public hearing back to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
for the purpose of a motion, the Planning and Development Commission finds application number V-21-14 consistent with the Citrus County Land Development Code and is in keeping with the intent and policies of the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan, and that this board approves with conditions the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition with the following conditions. Do I need to read all those again?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
I have a motion by Commissioner Worthington. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Barnes. Is there discussion? Commissioner Stone.
I would like to note that merely because a developer lays out a lot, there's no indication or guarantee of either the appropriateness of that lot or that it is able to have something built. This proposed structure or development of this lot would contravene every single setback with respect to water, right-of-way, and wetlands. I don't see how we in good conscience can approve this or recommend approval merely because he offered a very small house on a piece of property that in fact should really not be developed at all. Okay? The place is just too small. So I shall vote against it.
Thank you. Other comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Okay. No from Facemeyer, Berta, and Stone. Motion carries. And with that, I will declare a 10-minute necessary break.
It's application V-21-16, McKenzie Permitting for Felipe Villain. Is a request for a two-part variance from the development of a single-family dwelling having less than the required minimum waterfront setback and less than the required minimum setback from the center line of the right-of-way. This is an aerial view of the subject properties. Looking south from the end of the cul-de-sac on West Coquina Court. Looking north, looking east, and the site plan as submitted by the applicant.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come forward?
Good morning, Brenda McKenzie, McKenzie Permitting and Consulting, and this is the property owner, Mr. Felipe Villain. And we've been working on this and with his contractor, Michael Roslet with Cardiff Homes, and designing a home, done several drawings to minimize getting a home on the property. Mr. Villain actually owns 2 lots, and the property line in the middle is about 90 feet. By the time we come in 50 feet from the waterfront and we come in 25 feet with the 50-foot front setback, because of the cul-de-sac, I think the hardship here is the size and shape of his property. The cul-de-sac comes up into his property. It leaves him 15 feet along that property line to build a home. So Mr. Villain actually has purchased both lots, and we will do a unity of title and combine the two if we get to move forward with this. We've minimized it. The property, the home is only 40 feet deep. We had staircase coming out the front, staircase coming out the back. We've eliminated that and redesigned the floor plan so that the staircase comes up within that 40-foot footprint. So we believe that we're asking for a minimal. We've cut the porches down. I also think it's a very good opportunity here that you're not going to have 2 homes impacting a waterfront lot. This property could have a home on each lot. This is a separate lot. This is a separate lot. This could have a home on it, and this lot can have a home on it. So we're minimizing the impact on the waterway by only having 1 home. But another hardship besides the cul-de-sac coming into it is that this property line here is 90 feet. Even though we pie shape out, it's difficult to get a home that would fit when you have these angular pieces coming in. But we've redone it. I know the report says that the home is over 6,000 square feet, but the footprint at the ground level is only 2,059. So we're not asking for a variance on the ISR. And again, I always work with Michael Wilburn at Local Engineering. Moving forward, we of course would have a stormwater management plan in place to protect the waterway. We would voluntarily do it with guttering and also it is a requirement when we go to the next stage at permitting. So, we're here today, and Mr. Villain as well, to ask the board to please grant this. We feel we're asking for the minimum, particularly when we're only gonna have one home, on two properties. We're minimizing the impact on the waterways. So we're here to ask for the board to approve.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Sir, when were these lots purchased?
About 10 years ago.
Okay.
If I could please,
Questions from staff?
Ms. McKenzie, it looks like there's a large covered porch. It's not that clear on that particular one. Can you outline where that is? Is that a multi-story covered porch?
It's just at one level, and this is the outline of the porch across the back. Guess I'm shaking. That line across the back there is the porch.
So it's not the darker line,
No.
it's the lighter line that looks like a rectangle wrapping around it, because that actually is where your waterfront setback is
Right,
being measured to.
To the porch, because it's structure, but not to the actual living area itself.
And it's on the second floor?
On the second
first
floor.
living area floor, the second floor, okay.
So it's not at ground level.
And I know we talked briefly, it looks like the setback might be measured out to the traverse line rather than to actually the high water or the top of bank line. So are you confident with the 21 feet? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be 21 feet to an actual measurement. It goes out into the water.
You're putting in a seawall eventually?
The riprap is there now.
Okay, well, riprap doesn't count for a setback.
Right, right.
No, okay.
Unless we go, interior of the riprap. But where it's measuring to is that traverse line, which frankly looks like on this survey out into the water, out into the river. And you have a top of bank mirror, but it's not measured to that. It's
Right.
not measured to a mean high water line because I don't see one on there. I just wanted to express a little bit of concern with the 21 foot. That might not work for you with the building that you're talking about if that measurement's not right.
We're 21, I can look at it easier. We're 21 on the south property line at the water.
Right, to that
Right.
to that covered
Yeah,
porch.
and it cuts in there. That's where it comes back into the 90. That's when it comes back into the 90. So, I was with the builder, Michael Rosslett, and he felt confident, but you bring up a good point. Maybe 21 instead of 2111 would be better to work with.
Yeah,
or
we would do
20.
21 anyway instead of the inches, but I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure you were comfortable with the 21 that you're requesting that meets what you want to do. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the board or staff?
I do have one other thing. When he bought the property, the setback was 35 feet with a berm or swale, and now it's gone to the 50 foot. So when he bought it originally, we could do 35 feet with a berm or swale, and it would still be difficult to even accomplish that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Based on what you just said, was this application submitted before the change or after? The
After.
velocity zone?
After.
After, okay.
Yes.
And then this footprint on your, I didn't even realize that was a porch. I thought we were just dealing with the black. Like, until you guys just pointed that out right now, like, I
Right.
don't see anything on here that even let me know that was like a deck. So,
It's on the
It's-
second floor. I gave the house plans and.
yeah, no,
from- Right.
I'm just looking at the footprint
Yes, sir.
right here. So
Yes,
this
sir.
deck goes all the way around. It's all the way around this entire property like that.
Just the front.
Based on,
Just on the back, it's just along the back.
and it looks like it goes around to the right side there on what I'm looking at? All the way,
No, that's the building, that's the edge of the building there, so it does not wrap around the sides.
We have a good PowerPoint color on that to make it clearer, but if it's not
do you
clear
know
on
what,
that-
how
I see
wide
what you're
that
saying,
porch
Dave.
is?
It does. It wraps around to the right side.
It looks like it wraps
Yeah.
around, if
It
that's the
does.
dotted
It's
line.
straight,
that-
it's straight across the back, and it's a wrapping around this time. Yes, sir.
It wraps all the way around to the front is the way it looks on there.
No, that's overhang. That's a little confusing. Sorry about that. But that wouldn't go any further than the front setback of the heavy dotted
Okay.
line of the structure.
What's the width of that porch in the back?
It's 70. The overall footprint.
I'm talking about like I'm sorry, not the width. Let's just say the depth.
Oh,
The
depth.
depth of that porch.
All right. Can you read it? I have to get glasses for that. The rear porch is 8 feet.
It's 8 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have drawn the plans 4 times with an architect, minimizing, and the overall footprint is only 40. You know, some mobile homes are 50, a lot of homes are bigger than that.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask too, I didn't, and I apologize. Is it septic? Are you gonna where the septic's gonna go?
Sewer's coming in.
Sewer?
Sewer's
Okay.
coming in from the county.
And about where you think the stormwater might be on this site?
Well, we've already talked with Michael Wilburn. There's plenty of room along, we have over in this corner. It'd be across the whole entire back, basically a berm or a swale. And he can put another one on the right side. But he's on board once we know if we can move forward with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Apologize, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you.
May we hear the staff report, please?
Good morning, Joe Hockadell.
Morning, Joe.
And you'll have to forgive me, I am pitch hitting on this one. So the applicant is requesting approximately a 21-foot waterfront setback to develop a single-family dwelling on the subject property, as well as a setback of approximately 20 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. The property is about 0.34 acres in size, or about 14,740 square feet. It is one parcel. This was combined, it was two parcels, and they were combined back in 2013 through a plat, because it was a previously platted subdivision. So this actually is one parcel, it's not two. Property is currently vacant, and it does have a riprap seawall. So here's a view of the subject property. This is another view you can see out into Dixie Bay in the back. And so this is the site plan, and it actually is a lot more blown up than I thought it was going to be. You can see,
Joe?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, would you repeat
This slide right here is a lot more blown up than I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd be fit on the slide a little better. But you can see there's the covered deck, and it does come out. There's an access point right here, and then it comes along the back all the way over, and then based on this floor plan they gave, it actually goes around the sitting room and stops right there. So this is the site plan that actually shows the deck with the house. The proposed living area for the single family dwelling is 3,511 square feet. It is 2 stories with open on the bottom. And it has about a 1,248 square foot covered deck. The total footprint of the home and the deck is about 3,287 square feet. The average footprint for homes in the area is approximately 1,583 square feet, with an average waterfront setback of about 18, and an average right-of-way setback of 27 feet to the edge of the right-of-way. However, most of the properties in this area were placed prior to our current land development code standards, and some of them do encroach either within the right-of-way setback or the waterfront setback. And this property is currently a velocity zone, so the 50-foot setback would apply. And you can see again here, so the dark line is the approximate top of bank. That's approximately where the top of that riprap is. So it does look like the applicant took the setback to the traverse line, so that's why that question about the 21 foot came into play. However, because of the 50-foot requirement for a velocity zone and the 25-foot setback from the edge of the right-of-way, it does appear that there's no or very little buildable area on this property. However, based on the square footage and total footprint of the proposal, this does not appear to be a minimal request. And so not all the findings of fact have been found to be positive findings, and you should have some public input from some neighbors in your packet.
Thank you, Joe. Questions from the board? Thank you, Joe. Time has arrived for the public portion of this hearing, and I will open the meeting to the public for questions, or not questions, for comments they may have. Anyone in favor?
If
if I may, sir, please.
You may.
We're looking to make this our home for our family, my wife, my children. I take care of my 83-year-old mother. It's a plan we've had for over 10 years. Originally, I bought the lot on the left side. I realized, you know, for the sake of my neighbors around me and the waterfront and the community, I know nobody else cares very much, but I went through the expense of buying the lot next to me to have a bit more consideration to the people and my application. So it's dear to our family, and I would very much appreciate your favorable look on this.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address the board? Anyone in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Seeing no one, I will close the public portion of this hearing and return it back to the board for discussion and possible action.
I'm just curious what Mr. Stone would say about this particular parcel with a 0 square foot building envelope based on his comments on the last parcel.
Again, merely because a lot is platted does not necessarily guarantee that you can build on it. The history of Florida is famous for that kind of real estate dealings. So, yes, I see this as being too large for the lot, and I will vote against it.
I think it's too big for the lots too. But do we tell someone that they just can't develop their piece of property at all? Because there's based on the comments made about the last one, the building envelope, and the fact that there were wetlands and water and all of the setbacks, doesn't mean that you can just build on a piece of property. And this property has a lesser of an envelope than the last one. I mean, I believe that a hardship is warranted, or there is a hardship and a variance is warranted. I just believe that this is not the minimum request.
May I say something, please?
Commissioner Worthington.
I think that, you know, it might be true that the lot may not be buildable, but this is a request to have a variance to try to go through permitting. And the applicant may discover, you know, they might have to bring in too much fill, or they might have to do too many things to improve the lot, that they're not willing to take that expense at permitting. But this is obviously a hardship that we're to consider. That, is this a hardship, and should they have the ability to develop these properties, where it's not our place to decide if this lot, it can be permitted or if it's buildable, in my opinion.
I would say that it's not, but it's the prospective owner of any piece of property to do due diligence to see if what he wants to construct is compatible with the regulations of the place where he's doing it. Okay, and so a self-induced hardship, I do not think is any hardship at all. I mean, if you go into an issue with your eyes wide open and say, oh my goodness, I now have a problem, they knew they had a problem when they undertook to purchase that problem.
But things changed. He bought it 10 years ago, and then it just became a velocity zone, you know, July 2020.
It wasn't compatible 10 years ago.
Might have had to have a smaller building footprint. And as far as the building footprint goes, it's on 2 lots, and we're looking at, you know, it's 2,000 square foot built up. I know it says 6,000, but it's going up at 2,000.
Yeah, I'm not considering 7,000. I mean, that's a deck. Yeah. Any rate, I won't support this application.
I will not be supporting this application. Knowing the county commission has this exact topic at the top of their agenda, I know we can't discuss that beyond that, but I know that the waterfront setback requirements will likely change in the near future, and we have denied quite a few applications in this neighborhood during my tenure. So I will be consistent and I will not be supporting this application. Other comments from the board?
I think that the applicant, in buying the second lot, was showing he was trying to do the right thing. And I also think by building up, he has less of a footprint than you would have if there were two lots with two homes. And I do think that he has a hardship, and I'm not in favor of strict adherence to anything. I think we should take all factors into consideration. And whatever the County Board of Commissioners does, that's their business. But I've never been in favor of saying no, 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 just because I have to say no. I think that if that were the case, just take the variance thing out and don't even apply. And I've seen a lot of people come in here at great expense to do an application, and I think trying their best to get a home built and adhere as close as they can to the prescriptions of the land use code, and I think we should listen to them. That's it, and I will support this because I think they have done some due diligence in trying to do the right thing.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Were there conditions?
Yes.
Okay. For the
Yes.
purpose of a motion, the Planning and Development Commission finds application number V-21-16 consistent with the Citrus County Land Development Code and is in keeping with the intent of the policies of the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan, and that this board approves with conditions of the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented, the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition with the following conditions, which are in the...
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read some prepared
Please, Joe.
conditions?
Yeah, would you please read them into the record?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Number one, the single-family dwelling must maintain a 21-foot setback from the mean high water line and a 20-foot setback from the edge of the right-of-way as requested. Number two, a berm swale system or other appropriate stormwater management system acceptable to the County Engineering Division is required to be installed at time of permitting. Number three, a grading and drainage plan prepared by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Florida must be submitted, providing all the items listed in LDC Chapter 6, Section 6420A and B2. Number four, runoff and erosion control measures shall be installed to protect water bodies, wetlands, and/or adjacent properties before starting land disturbance activities, as per Citrus County Code, Section 42-172C. And number five, a tie-in survey demonstrating the maintenance of the required minimum 21-foot setback from the mean high water line and a 20-foot setback from the edge of the right-of-way must be submitted to and approved by the Land Development Division within 30 calendar days of establishing the lowest habitable floor level.
Thank you, Joe. Do I hear a second? I have a motion by Commissioner Worthington. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Royce. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify
Hang
by...
on one second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun.
I just would like to hear our resident FEMA commissioner, just on the velocity zone issue and what your thoughts are on the application. And if I'm putting you on the spot and you don't want to, you can gladly say no, but I value your input.
No, I appreciate that. I just think everybody knows where I stand on that. I'm certainly not for this. Never will be for this. The law is the law. The codes are written. The high velocity zone was written for a purpose. The purpose is not to build a mansion on a cul-de-sac. It's to, to protect our waterways and our flooding. So I would totally be against it.
So are you against there's 0-foot building envelope on this? Are you against it because it's not a minimal request, or you would just say because nobody's ever going to be able to build on this property unless they come in front of us and ask for or this board and ask for a variance?
I just think there's another aspects. You don't have to build a 3-story stilt home with a 8-foot deck wrapped around that will construct. I think there's smaller dwellings that could fit on that one lot, or if it was split back into two. I drove that neighborhood. I was in that neighborhood. There's houses in that neighborhood that are a lot smaller than the ones he's proposed to build. So yeah, I would have to consider it on I'm considering the structure and the layout of what they presented. as my decision, not based on total wall.
Understood.
Even if it was the 35 foot 10 years ago when he bought it, it would still be sitting here in front of us and we'd be still having the same conversation. And 15 feet is 15 feet. That's a large.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the 35 foot with the elimination of the porch, or at least a reconfiguration of it, might have worked prior to the new, floodplain. Okay.
Okay, well, I would like to request the board respectfully to let us continue as this. I do have the proposal from Clark Stillwell and been speaking to him. This is it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so,
What
we
is
could-
that proposal?
this is,
If
Clark.
they haven't seen that, they don't know.
You haven't seen it yet.
All right,
No, I wonder what the topic is
Clark Stillwell has some thoughts on how the waterfront setbacks need
for
to
the
be
county
changed.
commission to propose to the county. Okay, that's fine.
And
right,
he
so I am
typed all
aware,
that.
I am aware of that. I just know that by the time you come with 50 foot in the back and 50 foot on the front, you have there, no matter what, if you build a 1,200 square foot house, it doesn't fit. So, my applicant would like to pull this since you can't come back for over a year with anything even similar. And particularly when I know Clark, has been dealing with me, and they're proposing some changes. So I would respect.
wholeheartedly would agree with a continuance.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm very anxious to know what the next iteration of waterfront setback will be from the county commission.
Yes, sir, and I was at the last two meetings with the Board of County Commissioners that I know that's up for changes maybe. So I would respectfully like to ask to have this continued, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to change my motion. Withdraw my previous motion and make a motion for
Commissioner Worthington withdraws her
continuance.
motion. Commissioner Roy, is you okay with that?
I'm with her.
Okay. Okay, I will entertain a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Motion by Commissioner Worthington to continue.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Royce to continue this application. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I do have one request of staff, that when we get our agenda package, can we be consistent about when and where we see the conditions? Because I know there's a lot of shuffling going on up here.
Yeah.
Because every planner puts them in here a little bit differently. Can we have a page that says, these are the conditions,
I think the issue that you're dealing with is if the factors are not found to be positive and therefore it's not anticipated that the board would approve something, there are no conditions included.
But
Like which was the case in this last one. So the conditions aren't included because the factors do not lend themselves to you finding favorably.
In the first application, she's exactly right. In the first application, the conditions were proposed by the applicant that she pulled in. But they're always on the staff report. If the findings are positive, we're gonna have it on that staff report. We don't have it shoved somewhere later. But if they're not positive, we usually don't put them in.
okay.
That's
I
why
hope
you
that's
couldn't
clear.
find them.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
that if
Not
you-
trying to hide them from you.
Can you highlight them somehow? I mean, just, because somehow I never find them very easy.
Your
Next meeting
Your
is?
next meeting, October 21st, and we do have 5 applications on the agenda, 2 PUDs, a conditional use, a plat vacate, and 1 variance.
Anything else for the good of the order?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Commissioner Alberta, Commissioner Barnes, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.